We good?
Yep.
Well, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I know I've been gone for a little while, but Lucas and I really wanted to figure out a way to come back to YouTube and make videos that we could sit down and watch and be really stoked about. I feel like I've had so many different studios over the years, and when I was looking back at the content last year, even though, you know, the videos were cool and there was lots of really great ones in there, there was nothing that really made me feel like I was super stoked about. So we kind of just went back to the drawing board. There was one night that Lucas and I were sitting down and we were kind of like, you know what, we should just scrap this whole thing and just start again. So we started coming up with ideas for this brand new drum room, which is what you see right now. So welcome to the new drum room. I'm very stoked about it. Lucas, add in like a little cheer effect there. That'd be amazing. Yay! We kind of just started to think, well, what is going to be a way to make drumming videos that's unique, that's fun, and a reflection of my own personality, instead of, you know, being in this room that kind of looked like a hospital for some weird reason. I'm so lucky and fortunate to be able to have so many different studios over the years. If you guys have followed me since the early days, well over a decade now, all the way up until today, it's been a pretty crazy journey. And it's only until now that I'm sitting in a room and I'm like, I feel really stoked to be in here. This is exactly what I've envisioned. And it's taken Lucas and I a pretty long time to figure this out. We worked with an amazing company called Bleachworks to basically make this vision come alive, and there are a lot of details that we'll run through in this video about the room. We're going to do a rig rundown. I'm going to answer a whole bunch of questions, and really the whole point of this video is I never really speak, and I have so much to say, and usually I just get on YouTube, do these videos, and I'm out. And I just really want to be able to connect with you guys a lot more now that I'm back on YouTube. And then I want to give you guys a whole rundown of what I have planned for this channel. Okay, so a little bit about this room. As you can tell, the whole foundation of the entire room is vintage posters. Unless I've been ripped off over the many months, these are all vintage posters that we hand selected to kind of reflect a little bit about myself. So as you can see, and it's such a shame that we put the Limp Bizkit poster all the way down there, but as you can see, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here, from motorsport all the way through to bands, skating. It's kind of just like this concoction of things that I really love visually and things that really align with me. So the whole room is kind of like this, all the way up into the lights there. And then behind me, I have this bookcase of just a whole bunch of stuff. And the whole kind of concept is I really wanted to feel like I was back at home when I was like 13 years old in my bedroom and just making videos and making fun content. It now feels like I'm in this like little world that reflects me, and it feels really cool. Of course, behind me on the TV, we have GTA Vice City. I did game a lot growing up. I actually have somehow a lifetime ban on Steam for doing ESP hacking on Counter-Strike 1.5. I actually still have the letter at home, so shout out to Steam. I haven't been able to play for a very long time, but I'm sure I could figure it out now. So I have the GTA Vice City on the TV. I have the old MacBook computer behind me. I have some skate decks because I used to skate. I'm super bad. I can like kickflip. I think the best trick I could ever do was, I think it's the 360 flip. That was kind of tight, but now I don't skate. I'm too like worried about hurting my wrists or my ankles. And then there's kind of like all these little trinkets around, and as you watch these videos, you're gonna like notice something new every single time. We have some speakers behind me. And then of course we have this strobe setup that I don't even know if we'll ever use, but I bought these strobes called Atomic 3000s, and you use these on like festival stages when you're playing shows, and they're super overkill, and if you run them at 100%, it would trip the power in the house, which wouldn't be very good. But I just love the look of them. We have played around with them, but haven't used them yet. And then Lucas finally convinced me in buying proper light. So we have Astera tubes. So we have like a couple in this box here, and they're like sprinkled all throughout the room, which gives us control and the RGB and all like the fancy things with like an iPad. So that's very different for me, because traditionally in every single video that you've seen of mine is usually just these like Amazon light boxes that I've set up, and they've worked. And then we ditched those light boxes. We went for a light on top of Lucas's camera to give us more of a focused light. And then one day the battery kept dying, and then we just smashed everything. I smashed everything. And then we were kind of like, we should probably just get the real thing. So I'm really stoked that we have the lights, we have the room in the right kind of vibe, and it's something that has kind of come together over the last couple of months, and I wanted to take my time with it to just make it feel and look exactly how I wanted. Okay, so let's talk about the drums. So I'm very lucky to be looked after by Pearl, Evans, Vader, Sabian. They're just honestly the best brands ever. And as you can see, these are brand new shells. This is the Pearl Reference 1. And it's kind of like a concoction of my old kit and these new shells. And then of course with my signature snare over here on the left. So basically how it works, just so you guys have some context, is I have a kit here, and then I have 2 identical kits that I use for all of our touring. I sometimes record on this kit, but typically when I record drums, if we do anything on one of the records, I'll just take pieces of this kit and then take it upstairs, as the big studio is above me, and then we'll basically just piece together what makes sense. But for making videos and just kind of going ballistic, I use this kit. And also, like, on that point, just so you guys are aware, where we are right now in the space of the house is I'm like basically right next to a mountain on the left, like the side of this wall. On the other side is a studio that I have for producing, and then upstairs is a main studio, and then there's a vocal booth, and then there's all kinds of different things throughout this entire house. So this is kind of like the little bunker that Lucas and I hide in, and then obviously make these amazing videos. So drums, Pearl Reference 1. Obviously all the specs are online. You guys know me. I'm not like a super technical guy when it comes to the specs, but with the kick, I've gone for the same finish on the shells, on the lugs. It's one of the most incredible kicks I've ever had. I will say that the one that I had before this, I just grew so attached to it because I played, you know, over 500 shows on that kit, so many different videos. This one is definitely growing on me more every single day, and I do really love that no matter how you tune it, even if you don't know how to tune a kick drum like me, it still sounds good. So the kick, I'm super happy with. This kit in general, just the shells, these get absolutely beaten. Obviously, I'm a heavy hitter. I'm not a very big guy. Somehow, I'm a really heavy hitter. And, you know, these drums, just in general, they can take a beating, and they're still super responsive. So the kick is fantastic. Going up to the rack, I went with the same sizes that I had before, which is on my Pearl profile online. Again, with that same color scheme throughout these lugs. With these rims that are on this tom in particular, or this rack tom I should say, I've just found myself, when I play these, I really use the rim sometimes, weirdly enough, to make them crack more. And I grew up playing jazz and Latin, and, you know, you would use, you know, this rim a lot to change, you know, the sound of the drum, just like doing a rim shot on the snare. And I find myself doing that with the rack tom and the floor tom, floor 2 a little bit. But for the most part, you know, if you're hitting dead center and you're hitting nice and consistent with good velocity, these things are going to respond super well, and they're going to give you a sound that obviously is very loud. You obviously can pull some dynamics with it, but they're not, you know, for me, these are not like designed, and I don't play them to be able to be super dynamic. You know, they're big, loud, bold, and they sound great. So with the shells, you know, Reference 1 is where I'm at right now. With the snare, same deal that I had before. The one thing that I really love about the snare is with the wires that are underneath it, I've been playing around a lot with the tension, and I really like the springs to be a lot looser than I've ever had before. And you'll notice in the video that comes out next, One of the things that sounds quite different to any other video that I've done in the past is how this snare is responding. I'm really in love with it. This thing gets absolutely beaten. Somehow I have like 7 of these snare drums, and it's so weird because this one is the only one I'll touch, and the other ones are just backups, or if this one breaks, or, you know, but you get so attached to these Pearl snare drums, and I've never felt that way about any other, you know, drum company. And I'm not even like, you know, I'm not getting like paid to say this stuff. This is just a genuine like little rig rundown. I have my signature snare over here. Obviously, this thing is pretty ridiculous. You know, I'm super fortunate and lucky to be able to have my own signature snare. You know, obviously with all the holes around the side of it, the whole point of this was just to make it loud, look iconic, and be something that you can just beat really hard, stay responsive, and really create a sound that was still as powerful as a main snare, but you could treat it with really light ghost notes and still have like a nice warm tone with it. So I absolutely love it. I'm going to use it a lot more in these new videos. It's a lot of fun to go in between these 2 snares now that I've kind of figured out how to use it and incorporate it into the way that I write drums. So I absolutely love this snare. And again, it's, you know, it hasn't changed. It's the same signature one that, you know, we released. And if anyone has purchased one, thank you so much. Super stoked. Going to the head, so I have the Evans heavyweight on both snares. This thing is a beast. They last a really long time for me. You know, obviously, you know, when you are practicing accuracy and all of that kind of stuff, sometimes you'll get a slight dimple in the middle, but with this head, you really don't. It's very good. I don't think I will ever change this head at this point. I'll stick with this as long as they run the heavyweight 4. On the toms, I have the Evans G2 all the way through, and then I believe I have the G1s on the bottom. With tuning, I will admit I do not tune these drums because I'm not good at tuning drums. I am very lucky to have a drum tech that comes in and makes this sound super amazing. And then behind that wall in another room, we have Doug that obviously makes this sound even better. So I wish I could tell you guys how I tune these. I do not. I will be 100% honest. The one thing that I want to mention about the toms and this snare is you have to use lug locks. I am not using lug locks right now, and I thought I'd be cool and be able to like turn this with my fingers, but I can't. When you're hitting this snare, especially on the rim here, having lug locks will prevent this lug from spinning, and it's definitely something that I've found, especially with this snare and with this floor too. So if you are able to buy these drums, that is definitely something that I would recommend. Moving on to the Moongel. So, you know, I know there's all these different types you can have, and I know people were buying like sticky hands and putting sticky hands on drums. For me personally, Moongel is the best company, and it is the most durable material to put on these drums. How I wash them is I literally just take them off, put them in a bowl of warm soapy water, clean them off, and put them back on the drums. As you can tell, I do run a lot of them. You do not need this much. It is purely because I want them to sound this kind of way. 2 on the snare, 2 on the rack, 3 and 3. So I'm using 2 full tubs for the most part. And I just love the kind of like that muted response, or I guess that muted tone that it gives. I really like it, and I've kind of always done it. I have tried some other brands, as you would have seen in my other videos, but I've gone back to Moongel. It's just the best. And shout out to Moongel. You guys have been killing it for as long as you've been making Moongel. I think at this point, we should go to the cymbals. So with the cymbals, it is the same cymbals that I've always had. Of course, I have the HHX Evolution 14 over here. These things get absolutely thrashed. I like the sound of them over here for 2 reasons. One is they sound really great when you do an open hi-hat. And the second reason is because when you have the hi-hat open and you're doing ghost notes or different details, they still have an attack with their sound. So I absolutely love these. We have the splashes over here. We have the AAX. What is this? The AAX Aero Splash. We have the HHX Evolution. That's the 10. And then this one here is the 10 as well. Sometimes I run 2 different sizes, But for the most part, this one has holes, this one doesn't. Why do I do it? Well, if you do a fill and you're able to hit these at the same time, you'll be able to make it sound a lot more dynamic and a lot cooler. So that's why I do it. This cymbal, I don't know if you can see, but it kind of looks like a farmer's hat. This is just a testament to how durable these cymbals really are. This one here is a HHX 19-inch Fierce Crash. It's incredible. I've played it for many, many years. The reason why I run this over here and not as a main is the sustain that this cymbal has is quite long, and I definitely wouldn't class it too much as an attack crash. It would more be a detail crash for me, but it's great. It's really, really fun to play, and it leads me on to the next cymbal, which is the best cymbal in the world. There's no better cymbal than the HHX Complex Ozone. I didn't even know it was called the Complex Ozone. I just call this the Ozone. Over the years, it's changed its construction. Obviously has a lot of these details on the bell now, but I love it. I've been playing this thing for I don't know how long, so many years. Super durable, and you can just beat this thing like crazy and it'll always respond. There is a ride cymbal. The ride cymbal's in the corner. It's a HHX. I haven't been running a ride cymbal, to be honest. I'm not really into them right now, so that one's just not on the kit. And then we have the Extreme Crash HHX 19-inch. You know, this thing it has so much attack to it. It's quite bright, and it really just pops in the mix. So between those two crashes, you get a really nice dynamic range, and you're able to provide, you know, a whole rounded set of sounds. Going to the AAX. So this is the Frequency hats, 14-inch. What can I say? These things are the only hats I've ever run on my X hat setup, and the reason being is when they're clamped, I would say they're the best sounding hats on the planet. And the reason is when you're hitting here or you're hitting on the top, both of those sounds are just superb. And a lot of the times that I've found with X hats, when I've tried them out in the past, is they either sound really good in one stick position, but they don't sound great in the other stick position. So this is just all round absolutely amazing. Now we go to the China. I feel bad for the China, to be honest. It's kind of sad. This one's cracked. I like the sound of it being cracked, to be honest, and I think that's a cool thing. Using cracked cymbals isn't a negative as long as the metal isn't kind of touching and making it, you know, sound like super metallic-y and going down the mic. There are some cymbals that just sound super dope cracked. I obviously replace this thing out when this chunk will fall off, but I love this thing. This China in general is the only China I think I've ever used. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. This is the Chad Smith one. It's a 10 out of 10. And you can just hit it like crazy. It will crack, for sure. Especially if you have your cymbals as flat as I do and you just play like breakdowns all the time and just for fun, but it's amazing. Then we go over to this stack. I don't know what this stack is made out of, and as you guys kind of know, I'm always super honest. I'm not here to just tell you guys I'm like a drum guru. This is the XSR Ozone. I just sounded American then. The 16-inch, kind of nice on top, and then underneath we have the Sabian. I don't even know what this is. This is the Sabian custom shop with absolutely no details on it. So honestly, I wish I could tell you what that is, but my drum tech found it and we built this stack, and it's been the same for probably half a decade or however long it has been since we selected it. But that thing's super amazing, and I keep it kind of loose. I don't like to keep it too tight. I know you can stack these things in like, you know, a crazy amount of different ways. The reason why I stack it like this is if you're swinging hard, I don't want to be denting my sticks too much, so I like the angle of attack in a negative position. But I have seen people, you know, flip these upside down. They just eat your sticks like crazy. Which is a great segue to my sticks. These are sessions. They're Veda sessions. I've played these for over a decade. They're amazing. It's in between a 5A and a 5B if you want to get technical with it. But the reason why I love these sticks is there's two reasons. One is they're a little bit lighter, so I'm able to go around the kit a little bit quicker. But I've just found that the weight of these just feel absolutely spot on for the size of my hand. So when I swing them or I do the push-pull technique, I'm able to go the furthest, you know, on the stick like this, and they still feel like the weight is very controlled when you're doing really fast movements. So Vader sessions, we covered the drums, we covered the cymbals. Now let's go to the rack. The rack is crazy. The rack's all handmade. There's 3 identical racks that we have. So it's all custom cut piping for the most part. It is a double rack, which means that there is, you know, an absurd amount of piping on it. But the whole point and purpose of this was actually built from when we did World War Joy Tour. And I had 2 kits on that show, one in the middle of the arena and one on main stage. And we wanted to be able to make it a process so it was really quick for my tech to be able to set up the kit. So we thought, well, let's just make 2 racks, have everything attached to the rack, and then all we need to do is put the rack on the stage, put the kick in place, and this is like, this piece here, this snare is all attached to the rack. All I need to do is put the kick and the toms in place, and that's it. And then of course the pedals. So that's kind of how the idea came about. What I really like about it is, as you can see, this thing is like very, 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 what would be the word? Robust. That's a good word to describe it. So when you're playing, the one thing that I used to hate growing up, and there's like so many memes about this, when you play the China cymbal and the China like keeps moving away from you, it literally cannot happen with this. This thing weighs a lot. You need 2 people to pick up just one rack, and that is with the cymbals and the hi-hat detached and the snare rod attached as well. So it's very heavy and it allows the kit to feel super planted. So that's a little bit about the rack. This one is my decommissioned tour rack. Once they kind of get fucked up, they end up here. It served me really, really well, and I don't think I'll ever use like a boom stand ever again. So if you can build a rack or make your own rack or put together pieces to make some type of version of a rack, I would highly suggest it. Okay, let's go to mics. So why do I use all these mics? Okay, so I don't mix any of my covers. Doug Clark in the back is the wizard behind the sounds of these drums. But back when I was mixing my drums many, many years ago, I always wanted to have control, and I was always the guy, especially playing live, the second that I saw overheads, I would pull them down straight away. And it's not so much because of the sound. I just hate the aesthetic of having these like big boom stands over a kit. I feel like it's super old school and there's better ways to do it. Not to contradict myself, but I've brought overheads back. And the reason why I've brought overheads back is in this room configuration and how we're doing it, it does sound better. I'm using the Latch Lake boom stands, which are kind of overkill, to get it out of the shot so I could still achieve something aesthetically pleasing that I liked. But from a sonic standpoint and from a recording standpoint, Doug did convince me to have these overheads back in. So I used these many, many years ago. These are... Doug, what are these mics?
414s.
These are the 414s. They're great. Use the gold side. You know, you can never be wrong. There's some buttons on them. I don't really know what they do, but they're great. Make sure whenever you put overheads up, you measure from the snare. You can do it with a mic cable. Make sure they're in phase and all of that kind of stuff. So they're fantastic. Then we go to the kick. We're using the 91. Is that 91A? Yeah. 91A, which is amazing. Great. There's only one mic in the kick drum. That's it. You don't need more than that. At least in my opinion, there's a pillow in there. I'm using the Evans Level 360 clear head, which obviously has a really strong punchy attack to it. But for the most part, there's one kick mic in there. I used to use one on the front years ago, and it just doesn't do that much, you know? So that's the kick. On the snare, I run the SM57, of course, on both snares, top and bottom. And then I have this Bayer, I think I'm saying it right, the Bayer Dynamic M201. Reason why I do this really captures all the loud, heavy hits. This captures all of the details. It gives us more control when we're mixing. That's really the reason why we do it. Something that you need to look out for is making sure that you have these caps in a line. So, you know, obviously that sound wave is hitting them ideally at the same time. So we have the snares covered. There's a 57 underneath, 57 underneath, and then we go to the hats. So the hats, we have the Shure. I think these are SM81s. I've run these for years. I run them underneath. Why do I run them underneath? because when they're on top and they're pointing at the snare and they're pointing at other drums, you can just hear the bleed. So I run them underneath. I do try to angle them a little bit further away so I can get a super controlled sound. But these are great. I have them on the slightly curved setting, so setting 2, and they work perfect. And then I also run them at 0, so they're not, you know, at -10 or +10 or anything like that, just at 0, nice and standard, and they work really well. Also, if I were to go overhead, then it just kind of gets all in the way of the cymbals. And as you will have noticed, the cymbals are in a different configuration than I've ever run them before. And there's 2 reasons why. If I put this over here where I used to have it, I wouldn't be able to hit the snare and it would hit the wall and it would, you know, it would then hit Tupac's face and that would be super sad. So I actually moved everything over here, and what I've found, weirdly enough, is I'm able to hit things harder because I'm not overextending my arm and my shoulder range, and I'm putting it more in line, I guess, with like a striking position. So when you think about hitting hard and doing things like that, it's actually more ergonomical for me. Well, I sound like a professor. More ergonomical for me to have my cymbals in this configuration, and I think it looks cooler. So that's kind of cool. Then we go to the cymbals. So the cymbals, I have a Shure, I think it's KSM 137. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. I would say they're the best cymbal mic in the world, number 1, the most durable mic, and I think that for any type of cymbal application, combined with an overhead, I know, I think it's the best combo on the planet. I run them on a K&M clamp, which I know. It's the K&M clamp. They're you know, much better than using a stand for the most part, because if you have all these stands everywhere, it just gets absolutely crazy when you run this many mics. And yeah, it works really well. I think when you guys hear the drums, you will be super impressed at how much better it sounds. I was running... Doug, what were the mics I was running on the Splash? Yeah, I think they were called 98 ADC mics, little tiny ones. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, and they just weren't good. So we got rid of those, and now we have the consistent mics throughout the cymbals. And then we have these new Earthworks mics. They're great. They seem to be super responsive. To be honest, I think tom mics are the hardest mics to have on your kit, because it's one of those things that if your toms start falling out of tune, and you know, sometimes mics can make it sound better, sometimes, you know, you have to have your drums in tune perfectly for, you know, the mics to pick it up and make it sound good. So I'm trying these for now. I don't know if we'll keep them, but they seem to be doing the job. They definitely seem super durable, because I do hit these mics a lot, and I do love that they have this like metal this metal piece here. It definitely feels like they're super durable. So we'll see how they go. So in general, that's the shells, that's the kit, that's kind of the whole rig rundown. And last but not least, my IEMs. I run JH16 V2 Pros. These are the greatest. I highly recommend, if you can, use JH Audio. They're just for drumming. These are not like the best ones, by the way. Then there's not like the Roxannes or like the top of the line ones, but these ones in particular, the amount of drivers and the construction of all of that audio equipment inside for drumming, I think is the best, and they're the only ones that I would probably recommend. And then I have this routed, you know, I have a plug here, and Lucas has one, and then Doug has one back there, so we can all hear and talk to each other, and it seems to work really well. Last but not least, my drum pedals. I run the Demon Drive Directs, and I don't know, Lucas, if you can see them, but these pedals are amazing. I don't run a felt on the front of, you know, right here. I love the Directs. I've been playing Directs for a very long time now. I think if you are playing metal music, or you are doing any type of double bass, anything that requires accuracy, or like really precise accuracy, for me personally, I think the Directs and the Demon Drives are absolutely amazing, super responsive. For some reason, I do snap a fair few of the springs, which is quite literally a drummer's nightmare. But for the most part, I think it was a bad batch of springs that I had, so it hasn't happened for a little while. The beaters are great. I don't run weights on the beaters. I just run them as they come. And I keep the beater, I would say, with about 1 inch before the clamp at the bottom. So they're quite high, so I can rely on that swing and, you know, kind of control it as I need to do different dynamics and control on what I am doing. So with that being said, I think we can move to the next part. Okay, so now we're going to go into the question phase, and I pulled these from the YouTube community and all the different places that you post, you know, content on. And I really feel like these questions were well written, and I feel like they will unlock some new information that you guys may or may not have known about me or the room or whatever. So here we go. First question, question 1. How do you get behind the drum set? Well, this is a very, very good question. So this actually, you know, where the bookcase is on the right-hand side, I know you guys can't see, but it's basically a zigzag and then a door on the left, and then that goes down to a hallway. I can actually show you. You can stay here right now, but it's an optical illusion, right? Because there you go. So how you get into the room, it's like this. And I know it looks weird on camera, but that's how you get in, and then I get into my kit. Now, how does Lucas get behind the drum kit? Because there's a wall and there's a wall here. He has to stand on the stool, stand on the drum, and then literally hold the cymbals and get over to the other side. So it's not ideal. We're working with what we've got. It's definitely a little grungy and a little punk, but that's how I love it, and that's how Lucas gets behind the kit. And then behind that wall, like I said, there's another door, there's another room, and there's another studio next door, so you're able to kind of like move around. But that's how I get behind the drum set. It was a big debate doing it like this, but we ended up going in this configuration so we could make the room nice and long and have a lot of depth and all that kind of stuff. Okay, how do you train for independent limb control? I do a 20-minute routine every single day on my practice pad, and sometimes I have practice kick pedals, but if not, I'll just put my feet on the floor. I'll make sure I wear shoes so I have some weight on my feet, and I will basically run through paradiddles, singles. I'll have consistent singles going on my feet to basically follow my hands, and then as I follow my hands in unison, I basically run through landing things on different parts, whether it's like and or E or R, and I go through that religiously at 145 and 150 BPM for 3 minutes, 5 rounds, and then down to 100 BPM for 1 minute, 8 rounds. So it's kind of weird, and I bounce through those depending on, you know, what I'm feeling. At this point in my drum career, I'm not doing like, you know, paradiddles between the kick and the tom and going around like that anymore. But those exercises, as boring as they are the most valuable exercises for limb control. And the other thing that I did for limb control is I learned jazz. I played jazz in big bands and trios and, you know, the real book and all of that kind of stuff for a very, very long time. And jazz and Latin music really is one of those things that is able to create a lot of different limb control, because on your left foot, you're controlling something on your hi-hat predominantly. On your kick, you're doing accents and obviously keeping the beat and driving forward. And then your hands, basically like a butterfly, have to float over all these different rhythms, dynamics, tempos, setting things up. And that is really one of the core foundations that I had growing up, was playing jazz and playing Latin and then doing really boring exercises. There was actually one time in my life where I used to sit down, watch movies, and then do rudiments. And I would have a practice pad, like this Evans practice pad under my laptop with a towel on top of it. And then I would layer different towels to get different intensities. So I'd have to work harder. And then I'd work all my way up to a pillow, because a pillow has 0 rebound factor, and I would do that while practicing, you know, paradiddles on my kick. So as you can tell, I spent a lot of time doing that, and it seemed to work out. So don't try and go for things that feel fun for the most part when you're trying to build independence and routines and stuff like that. Go for things that really challenge you to be focused and drum with intention. So at the end of it, you can apply those things that you learn to the songs that you're playing. So I hope that's a good answer. Question 3, what makes you gravitate towards the double floor tom setup? That's a good question. To be honest, nothing really gravitates me towards it other than how it looks and how it sounds, and that's kind of it. I don't really, you can have a floor tom over here on your left. You can do the same type of fills. You can have, 2 up, 1 down. You can have 3 up, 2 down, 3 and 3. In terms of, why I play a kit in this configuration, to be brutally honest, I think it looks super sick. It's super fun to be able to swing and hit really hard in this configuration. And I do naturally love to do fills that start on the snare and kind of swoop around in a fast, like 30-second note or a 16-note fashion. And that's just kind of what I like. Same with the double hi-hats. There's no trick behind it other than, well, it's 2 hi-hats, so it sounds different. And I like the way that it feels when I play, and I love to obviously swing really high and do kind of crazy movements because that's what I enjoy. But there's I don't think anyone should feel a certain way about how they set their kit up. I just do it because it looks sick, super fun to play, and it works with the kind of style that I have. Question 4, what is the cover that you're most proud of? I would have to say, of course, Don't Let Me Down by the Chainsmokers. That's really what kicked my career into gear. I guess supercharged my career would be a better way to say it. That cover kind of just was, something that I did very late on a Tuesday night, and I just had this feeling that I needed to do it. And of course, that was the reason, or one of the reasons, I guess I should say, how I joined the Chainsmokers many, many, many years ago. That cover to me is always going to be really special, but I think technically the one that I'm most proud of in terms of the style and the things that I did probably be Dubstep 2, Dubstep Mix 2. If you've never seen it, I remember just getting so many DMs from so many DJs and people in the electronic scene just being like, I've never heard anything like that. And I feel when you have those little moments in your career, it definitely ticks this little box of, yay, I'm doing something right. So I really like Dubstep Mix 2 and Don't Let Me Down by the Chainsmokers. Who has been your biggest idol? So drumming wise, I would say John Bonham, and then business career wise in the music industry space, probably Phil Collins. Phil Collins is a very smart gentleman, and I've been following him apparently since I was 5 years old, so that's kind of cool. And then of course John Bonham, because of his style, how aggressive he plays, and just the way that he approaches music, I think is super creative. Question 6, how many times do you usually run through a song to create the beats and structure? Great question. Sometimes it's 5, and I'll just run it and freestyle and improv, and I built all of my improvisational chops by playing jazz. Sometimes I'll spend, 2 weeks on it and really perfect every single fill and detail and map everything out in my head and then do a take. And sometimes I nail it first take. Sometimes I have to do 3 takes. And there's been times here that we've done 10 takes and I've said, fuck it, and I hate it, and then it never comes out. So it's usually a process depending on how well it clicks in my head and if I can come up with an idea straight away that feels really fluid and complements the music really well. Question number 7. I love this question. What can we expect from you in the future for YouTube and Instagram? So for YouTube, it's super different. First of all, we're not just cranking out videos to crank out videos anymore. I'm super done with that. What we're doing is there's this new format that's coming out that we've built that basically is per artist. And it's this 10-15 minute video, and it's going to be a little bit of talking, a lot of drums, and this format that's going to be repeatable. As I feel like just getting online and just smashing out covers, I've done that. That box is definitely ticked. So we've built something that is super entertaining. It's going to be kind of funny, and that will come out fairly soon. So we're going to do this new format. I want to get back and doing these 10-15 minute drum and DJ videos, kind of like the Dubstep Mix 2. So that's probably going to be the first video that comes out. And then for Instagram, I'm just going to play 30 or 50-second tracks, and just ones that I really want to do for myself, ones that I really connect with again, and, go a little bit back into what I used to do, which was playing hardcore music and heavy dubstep, and, not just play things from the radio, even though I'll definitely still do that. I want to go back to more of my roots, so I think you guys will be super stoked about that. What is your daily practice routine? I kind of covered it, but you know, practice pad, 20 minutes, and then I'll play drums for at least an hour a day, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours, but no more than that. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I get my iPhone, wherever it is in my pocket. I put on different tracks, whether it's like the hip hop playlist or the metal playlist or, you know, a different set of curated music that's been put together by someone on the internet. And I'll just play to tracks. I don't play with a click. I don't train with clicks. When I play drums, I think to build your own internal metronome, I don't think playing with clicks is good. I think you need to be able to figure out how to play along to songs. And that is a huge reason why majority of the Chainsmokers shows, I don't play with a click. You know, I listen to the music and I've been able to build a good internal clock to keep things super tight, make sure things don't flam and all of that. So I don't really practice for a click when I'm playing with drums. I only do it for my warm-up routine, obviously, because I'm warming up without music. And yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I have a electric kit that I play around with that you guys have seen. It's a TD50X, I think, a Roland kit. It's good, great for practicing, but for the most part, now that this room's done, this is where I'm going to be every single day. How do you tune your drums? Well, I don't. We discussed this. I don't tune my drums. I'll be honest with you. Another gentleman does that, and he does an incredible job. I don't know how to tune drums. I've been playing drums for, what, 23, 24 years? It just doesn't work for me. It just sounds like a bowl, and I don't know. I don't get it. So I don't know how to tune drums. But there's like tutorials and things that you can, you know, watch, and you guys will be able to figure it out. Question 10, here we go. What do you do other than the Chainsmokers? Ooh, that's an interesting question. Well, I do a lot in the band with the show, obviously, and, you know, helping with all the music for the show, and then obviously drumming and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. But other than the band, I'm involved in a few different companies. One is garment manufacturing, one is production, and one is technology. So kind of different. I stay absolutely balls to the wall busy, and I've kind of expanded myself over the last couple of years just because I like to keep my mind super stimulated, and I'm really fascinated with different businesses and different categories of business. So it's one of those things that really keeps my creative brain going, because I'm one of those guys that I could sit in this room for like 14 hours, but if I was doing things for 10 hours and then came in here for 2 hours, I would get 10 times more done. So that's just kind of how my brain works. But yeah, I do a lot of other things outside of the band. And of course, Drew and Alex have all of their different businesses and ventures that they have that, you know, are super cool and super inspiring. So hopefully that answers that question. I'm sure none of you knew that. Who mixes your drums? His name's Doug Clark. I've known him for 16 years. He is probably the best drum engineer in the entire world. And, you know, he mixes on Pro Tools. We have a console behind us. Upstairs, we don't have a console, but we have a whole bunch of outboard gear. And really, you know, Doug, he keeps it sounding like it's going to mesh with the record, but sits it on top of the mix just enough to make sure it pokes through. That's a certain style that I have. I know a lot of other ways that people mix drums kind of just have them like sitting way on top of the original track, but he does a really good job mixing it in. So he's great. And yeah, you know, hit Doug up on Instagram if you want drum mixes. Where do I live? I live in Newport Beach in California, but I'm originally from Australia. I've been in America for 8 years. And Lucas and I used to live together in a house in West Hollywood. When I first moved over here, we used to skate to a shop to get burritos, and we don't do that anymore. Now we drive our fancy cars. But yeah, Newport Beach is where I call home. I'm super lucky and fortunate to live down there, and obviously I love the beach, being Australian. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And then obviously where I'm at right now, this is a house in the Hollywood Hills. And yeah, this is kind of the creative place where we come and make noise and hit things with sticks. So pretty cool. If you were not a musician, what would you have been? To be honest, it's an interesting question, and I don't know if I've ever like told anyone this. I've told you this, Lucas, but I would be a fighter pilot. And I know that sounds really weird, but I'm super obsessed with planes. I love planes. I would like drive to the airport and like watch them take off. I'm super obsessed with all the aviation channels and all of that kind of stuff. So I would be a fighter jet pilot because I like going really fast. I like things that are super dangerous, and I like the technology side of it. So that's what I would have been if I wasn't a musician. But obviously I started playing drums when I was 6, and then I started performing when I was 9. So the chances of that ever happening is kind of like completely irrelevant. So I guess that will be for my next next life. Okay, so next question. How do you make the music for the shows? To be honest, like Alex and Drew and myself, we have a really interesting way that we approach this. We look at the original composition and then we figure out how do we want to accentuate and make parts of the songs more of a statement, or do we want to just take it and make a brand new drop and a brand new build and all this kind of stuff? So it really starts at a discussion. Alex is absolutely unbelievable. The way that his creative brain works in electronic music is like nothing I've ever witnessed in my entire career. We like know exactly what we are both thinking, and then yeah, obviously I use Ableton, make a whole bunch of stuff with Alex and Drew. I really love taking the lead on that as I watch a lot of shows, I consume a lot of electronic music, and I really like to, you know, stay at the forefront of making cool sounds and things that I can play live, and really making sure that, you know, the versions that we play live are super fun and super energetic and fit with a standard Chainsmokers show. So that's kind of how I do it, and we keep it super collaborative, and Drew's obviously, you know, the production wizard behind everything you hear on the record. So yeah, it's a good team that we have. We definitely have like a perfect system that we've worked out over the many years. Last question, and I feel like this is a good question. This is like a really great way to end this video. If you've lasted this long, I respect you. What is a crazy moment you remember growing up? And this is a really good one. This is like me shutting the laptop and kind of being like, okay, here's a great story. And this story won't take that long. Is the GTA guy still on the screen? He is. Okay, that's great. You know, I started performing when I was 9, and my first international tour was when I was 15. You know, obviously I'm 30 right now, so I've done a few little things. And when I was like, I'm gonna say 19 years old. I can't remember like the exact age I was, to be honest, but I was really young, and I was playing a festival. I was in a group that was headlining the festival. It was about 25,000 people in Australia, and you know, I was super excited to play the show. And in that format back then, my kit was right at the downstage edge. So that means like right on the very edge of the stage, because, you know, I was like this young guy that's just like swinging my arms around. It's like entertaining for people to watch. Super dumb, but I used to only tour with like one pair of sticks, because I was always like, I don't need any other sticks, and like I'm not going to break them. And that wasn't even what happened. What happened was I had to start the show, and it was a drum DJ like electronic show, so there's like no click, there's no like nothing. You just go out there, play, and then they hot cue from the CDJ. And I walk out, I'll like literally never forget this. I walk out with my sticks in my hand, like so overwhelmed and like mind blown that this is like the show that's happening. And I throw my sticks into the crowd, like as if you would at the end of the show. I throw them out at the fucking start of the show. I swear it like hit someone in the head, so it didn't go down very well. And then I sit at the kit, and the artists are looking at me, and I remember just being like, oh no, like I'm gonna have to start finger drumming in front of 25,000 people, like headline set, 10 p.m. And the monitor engineer, no joke, in his drawer had like one Vic Firth like 5B stick and another stick that like looked like he homemade it. He ended up running over, grabbing the, giving me the sticks, you know, obviously started the whole show. And I just remember that 30 seconds to this day, my heart was like about to explode out of my chest, because I was like, the one show that I really needed to deliver a great performance, I'm out there just like throwing the sticks in the crowd, and I had none left. So that is the most iconic moment of my career. There's obviously so many different things that's happened over the years. I mean, I've been touring for a very long time so far and played a lot of different shows, but that one in particular, just being so young and playing audiences like that, I'll never forget it. So with that being said, I have another video coming out where you guys can actually hear this kit and see this whole room in action. I really appreciate you guys so much for following me and supporting me and everything that you guys have done over the years. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you at shows. I always love, you know, bringing you guys up on stage when I can during sound check and all of that good stuff. So I just want to say thank you from me, thank you from Lucas, thank you from Doug. This is the new era of my channel, and we won't be going anywhere for a long time. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.